I'm X,
And I'm Z.
and together we're
X and Z. On today's show, we discuss coffee clubs, old school coffee houses, cancel culture, how men and women differ among generations, the Me Too movement, big tech giants, and a return to artisanry.
So here we are, episode 4. Can you believe it?
No, I don't usually commit to things for this long.
Well, I'm going to keep you on track. We're going to do this.
You don't normally commit to things
It's
for
true.
this
I
long.
don't normally commit to things like that. I was thinking we recently went in on a coffee club. Maybe you could explain what a coffee club is.
Do they call themselves a coffee club?
I guess. What would you call it?
I don't know. It's
Like a monthly coffee.
It's like the same thing as like the meat box.
But isn't it like a coffee of the month club?
I guess it's like when when you're in the wine clubs and they send you a wine of
It's
the
still a
month. I
club,
guess.
right?
Yeah, I guess it's the same. It was. We joined Trade Coffee, and I joined it first, and then you said you wanted in because you liked my coffees, and then you did one, and now we do it together.
I was a little disappointed though because I assumed we could have just done it where we're getting two 1 pound bags of the same coffee. I would like to have every month 2 bags.
Yeah, they don't have
of
that
different
option.
coffees.
But I think the reason they don't have that option is because if they did separate coffees, then they wouldn't get the economies of scale.
We can do
We get a discount.
Yeah, well, we could do the 2 coffees, but I think it's like $3 more or something.
Yeah,
we're
it's
just
like
being cheap.
Yeah, we're just being cheap.
That's the reality of it.
But like you didn't like I know you didn't like the last one.
I didn't hate it, but it
Yeah,
wasn't
but
my
you didn't
favorite.
like it,
I'm
so it
hoping
was-
this one that arrived today is better.
I think that their dark roast game is better than their light roast game.
Was that a light roast?
Well, you said you wanted light to medium roasts, and I only wanted dark roasts.
Dark roast. We could always change it. Well, I think it asked me questions, and then it would give me the coffees based on the questions. So I don't think it's just light versus dark versus...
I think you told them you only wanted light.
No, I didn't. It just asked questions on what type of coffee I liked.
I told them I only wanted dark.
Well, I think I do like dark coffees, but I also like, the more muted,
lighter
coffees.
I almost 100% of the time prefer a given dark roast.
Why do you like the dark roast? Just the flavors? Do you think that there's more caffeine?
Dark roasts have less caffeine.
Yeah, they have less caffeine.
So it's not like I drink coffee to get caffeinated or anything.
People don't know that.
Yeah, people think the opposite.
The darker the roast, like an espresso has way more punch than
that's
a light cup of coffee.
That's why Starbucks by default gives the blonde and the blonde isn't the default. The default is Pike, and that's a medium.
But they burn all of their coffees.
Yeah, but they have more caffeine. That's the point of a Starbucks coffee.
The lighter roast.
To get more caffeine.
It's a shame because whoever roast, America has now learned to enjoy bad coffee.
But America, if I'd venture to guess that somewhere in the realm of 80 or 90% of people who buy Starbucks never buy coffee.
Like their own to grind at home, or what do you mean?
Like they don't, like no one, like I go up to the barista and I'm like, I want a Pike or I want a dark roast. And most people go up to the barista and they're like, I want a venti frappuccino.
With 2 pumps of whatever.
Yeah,
and
like
extra cinnamon
Starbucks is essentially like convenient desserts.
Like, it's not coffee, it's dessert.
Yeah, like they I think they might sell more coffee in the mornings, but that's just because it's like an easy one-stop shop. Like no one goes there to like enjoy a coffee.
I saw a meme recently that said something about this girl came out of Starbucks and she said, "Oh, I just love coffee." And the person that drinks coffee is like, "No, you enjoy desserts, not coffee."
I love coffee.
I love coffee too.
That I like that the color of our new bags is blue. Blue is a color of hope.
I'm actually surprised that Starbucks coffee is so burnt tasting because when we were in the Pacific Northwest, coffee was delicious. It was not Starbucks nasty.
Well, it's like all things. Like I'm sure when Starbucks was just an indie shop in the PCN,
Seattle,
it was great. PNW, I say
Pacific Northwest.
PNW, then it was probably great. But like as soon as you start getting so big that you can't fail, you don't need to put any work into your products anymore.
But I feel like they were always like, I come from coffee because I used to work at a coffee house when I was a kid. That sounds weird. When I was a kid. Yeah, I am old.
Well, you're not a kid.
I know, but it just sounds weird that I said it.
I don't think I'm
back when I was a kid.
I don't think I'm a kid anymore.
Well, I was
I'm 20
like
now.
your age when I worked there, and now I'm calling myself a kid. That's funny.
I would never want to work at a Starbucks or like
I
any
don't
of
think I'd
that.
want to work at Starbucks, but it was really fun working at a coffee house.
But like a real coffee house would be different
But
than a
back then, that
Starbucks.
was, I mean, they were niche, and there weren't like no two coffee houses were alike. You know, we kind of all did different things. We had different clientele. We
Well,
went to a lot of coffee houses. When we weren't at work at a coffee house, we were hanging out at other coffee houses.
well, in terms of like competition, I think that Coffee Bean and Tea Leaf is vastly superior in both tea and coffee.
Well, I think that's the sad part. You guys don't know that culture very. It is making a comeback.
I know that culture,
but like your age group, right?
yeah,
They don't really
a
know
lot
that
of us
culture of
don't
coffee
chill
houses
at
because
coffee houses.
they think of coffee as just Starbucks, right? They don't think of it as something that has a depth of flavor and all that stuff. But I think your generation actually drinks more coffee than my generation did.
Well, like if you count the coffee that's next to like the sugar pumps.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I'm
my
saying.
generation doesn't drink more straight coffee
Like
than
more
your
caffeine
generation.
goes into you.
But coffee's been more like turned from a delicacy into like a commodity. So
Yeah, that's true.
so that it changes.
But I am glad to see that a lot of them are starting to come back. Like Phil's. Phil's is a niche coffee place.
Phil's is great, but Phil's could stand to lose $1 or $2 off the price.
They are more expensive
But
than
like
Earth coffee, although Earth is
Earth
not
doesn't. I don't like Earth's coffee.
I don't really like their coffee that much, but I like the idea of what Earth is.
Yeah,
It's that old school coffee house type place.
But Phil's coffee is good, but like I don't know. Like I know that coffee, when it's like the nice, good kind of coffee, it costs a little more. But I didn't realize like $7
for
like,
just a drip
yeah,
coffee.
like Phil's coffee is like a whoa.
It can be a lot, but it is good. I don't think I've had one there that I disliked.
I did. I had one there that I hated once, and then I didn't go for a few years, and then now I have one there that I love, and now I love it.
Oh, the time you went the first time.
Yeah, because I was really upset because I didn't have a lot of money at the time, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna try Phil's, and then I looked at the prices, but after my coffee was made, and I was like, and then I had it, and it was worse than a Starbucks coffee, and then I was really mad.
So you didn't go back.
I didn't go back
remember
for
you were
like
mad
2
about
years.
it, yeah. But now you go, I'd say somewhat frequently to Phil's.
I go to Phil's when I feel that there's a Phil's nearby.
Yeah.
But I'm not nearby.
They've opened more though, so
there's
that's
not
good.
a lot of
There's
them.
not a lot.
There's this one in a building, in a commercial building that I always want to go to, but I'm never in like commercial parking lots.
There's another one that came on board a few years ago, the Bodhi Leaf Coffee, which used to be.
Bodhi Leaf is disgusting.
But
just
but
go
I
to
will
Starbucks.
say their nitro brew, the cold brew, is really good.
Well,
and they used to just have it at Whole Foods, and it was really good. But then when they opened the Bodhi Leaf coffee places, they're not very good.
They're disgusting.
It's kind of sad
and
because you can't get the good coffee that I used to get when I was younger.
Their coffees their drips are bad, and their sweet drinks are bad. They're all bad.
Their mocha was really bad.
It's so bad.
It's sad. But their nitro brew cold nitro cold brew is really good. That's a really good smooth
it's also
coffee.
Crying shame because every single Bodhi Leaf I've been to is really chill on the inside.
Yeah, they are very nice. But see, that's the thing. When we went and we hung out at coffee places, that's how it was. You always felt comfortable. You could stay there as long as you wanted. No one gave you any trouble. And it was, this was before no one had laptops. It wasn't like we walked around with laptops.
Well, I'm sure
we were
you
just
did
there.
schoolwork.
We did schoolwork. Yeah, I had my bag with me most of the time. But I mean, like it just wasn't. A lot of people go there because they need the internet, right? So they go to these coffee shops because they need to sit and do work on the internet. We were just there hanging out, talking, smoking cigarettes. Probably shouldn't have, but that's what we were doing. Your group of kids are just kind of there quietly. When I would pick you up from school and you would be at Starbucks, it was always packed, but nobody was ever really talking to each other.
Well, that's not true. We used to hang out outside of Starbucks and talk.
You guys. But if I came in,
so there were kids
and
at
all
Starbucks.
the people that were there, like on the inside, everybody was quietly working.
Yeah.
There wasn't any like big conversation.
But the baristas were having conversations with
That's
people.
true. The baristas.
So it's not all.
That's the nice part.
It's
about
not all doom and gloom.
Working there was you talk to a lot of people.
And
your regulars.
And there were regulars because I was a regular and I was there every day and I knew who the regulars were. And they did let you stay for as long as you want if you bought something. So it wasn't like all horrible.
No, I don't think it's horrible at all. It's still good. It's just different.
It's just the coffee's bad and it's become more.
The tea's good though.
Yeah, but their tea is good, but it's just adequately good. It's
It's
not
just
anything special.
Yeah, but I like just to play black tea.
Yeah, but like then you go and get a tea from Phil's. Remember that tea from Phil's you
That was
had?
really good. You know what? Earth had really good teas.
Yeah, and it was crispy.
That Earth tea, iced tea was really good. I can't say about Bodhi because I don't think I've ever had tea there.
Mm.
So I guess if we're discussing your generation versus my generation, coffee houses and the like, I think one of the things that is coming up a lot in the news lately is cancel culture. So what do you think about cancel culture?
Well, first of all, I think it's the millennials. My guys, man, I've talked to a bunch of people. They don't care. Maybe they do on Instagram, but they don't really care.
Well, I think with Gen X, we don't care either.
Gen X, yeah, Gen X.
But we've always kind of lied
Gen
in
X
the
is
middle.
always the people getting canceled.
Well,
though,
they're saying
in the, like
that the reason cancel culture exists is because the boomers, who are the parents of the millennials, kind of didn't want their kids bullied. So they kind of started the one strike you're out thing with schools, the zero tolerance policies, and that led to what we see as cancel culture today.
blame the boomers.
So the boomers, once again.
Well, it's the same thing with participation trophies. Everyone complains about participation trophies, but it wasn't the millennials in school who asked for participation
And it wasn't the Gen X that
trophies.
got them. It was the boomers giving it to their kids who are millennials.
That's right. It all goes back to the boomers.
Well, and I think that mostly it started because of bullying. I mean, that was the whole goal of, we weren't to bully anymore, right? My grade school, kids got bullied. They wanted that to end.
It didn't end.
So I know it went underground, right? They bullied in different ways. But I think the boomer parents assumed that if there was some zero tolerance policy, that they could edge it out and it would be gone, right? So into the late 1990s, early 2000s, they were trying to end it, right? Like no bullying at all. We have zero tolerance policies. You're going to get in trouble. Not that I'm not advocating for bullying by any means, but I think that was a beginning of one of the issues with why cancel culture began. Because if you bullied, you were canceled. There was a zero tolerance policy. And we learned how easy it was. We could just avoid the problems by getting rid of them entirely. And did it really get rid of the problems?
Well, I mean, cancel culture has become a pretty big problem. I mean,
but is it silencing people now? Have we developed that? Like, are people now afraid to say things?
Well, I mean, maybe some people, like clearly South Park and who's that guy who was on The Mandalorian?
Oh, I can never remember
Bill
his
Burr.
name. Bill Burr, I think.
Bill Burr is not worried about getting canceled. Like,
I think a lot of comedians aren't.
Yeah, but
I think they're equal opportunity haters.
Yeah,
I think that gives them a lot of leeway.
But yeah, it's definitely bad because sometimes the world is more than black and white, and cancel culture is very black and white. Like you can't even have a somewhat semi-controversial opinion that without someone canceling you. If you're high profile, if you're low profile, no one's going to pay attention.
Well,
to you.
has it maybe taken people into silence? Like now people won't say how they feel because they're so afraid of groupthink. Like if we look back to the last 10 months, right? People are afraid to maybe say things that they feel because they feel that the group won't agree with them. So to avoid it, they stay silent. And
that's not that. I don't know. Is that cancel culture? Because like that's
maybe they're afraid of getting canceled.
Was the Red Scare cancel culture?
How so?
Like if you were seen in any way, shape, or form as a communist, you were basically canceled.
I guess maybe that was an old example of when they also did cancel culture, but then it's the same thing. A lot of those people were even afraid to say anything. People in Hollywood shut up. They didn't have an opinion anymore because anything that could be tied to being a communist at that point, then McCarthyism came in and you were canceled.
It was a stressful time, and right now is a stressful time. So I guess there might just be some logic to the idea that maybe stressful times bring along a little bit of hysteria in terms of freedom of speech. Because when things are going good, people can kind of share their opinions.
But do you think we've created something that's made that happen?
I don't know. We have kind of a nasty culture here especially in the last 20 years of just not being able to even like families get broken up over disagreeing on stuff and all that.
Like your Thanksgiving dinner can no longer just be talk about the pretty birds
But
outside.
even if
It
you
gets
do,
very serious.
even if you do talk about politics at your Thanksgiving dinner, like I don't know why everyone gets mad at each other about it. Like
I think that it's people have more visceral reactions to things, maybe because it's not talked about so often. Maybe because we're not talking about it in social cultures, our frustration gets stifled and then it comes out at times maybe it shouldn't come out.
I think it's important that as long as no one is damaging someone else, that they can they can explain themselves and state their full opinion and not have to worry about being hurt because of it on either side of the aisle. And they can say it, and as long as it isn't targeting anyone or encouraging violence or hate, then it should be allowed, and then discussions should stem from that, and then people's opinions could change and become more informed. But the way that we do things right now, if someone says something we don't like even a little bit, we just write them off as as human scum,
Yeah.
and then no one ever learns anything. You never learn anything. The person who you consider human scum never learns anything, and 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 that's just the end of
I
it.
think we're too quick to assume anyone with a differing opinion, it automatically means they're an idiot or they're dumb or they're somebody that just isn't of the caliber that we are. Like somehow we're more important, so our information is more important. But
Well,
maybe that's not true. Maybe everyone should have that
it's a
voice.
big sign of like insecurity.
Yeah.
Like I am not 100% secure in what I believe, so I'm going to project that on you.
That's what you're saying, or that's what people say.
That's what people are doing. They're not secure in their own thoughts, so they disparage the thoughts of others. And instead, if you were secure enough in your own thought, you would calmly, you would more, if you desired to change someone's worldview, you would just have a discussion with them.
Do you seek to change the worldview of others?
I, in my day to day, very rarely do I seek to change the worldview of others because I know how closed off people are to receiving changes to their worldview.
I think I push the envelope a little bit more, but I don't do it necessarily to change their worldview. I kind of already know that most people are set in the ways that they think, but I do it as a challenge just so it doesn't get unchallenged. I
I
think people need to be challenged and be uncomfortable.
I prioritize.
Yeah.
I divide and conquer. Like some who I think of who would be important for me to have ideological overlap with and who wouldn't be important for me to have ideological overlap with. A random person, it's not important for me to have accord with them in terms of our beliefs. And I could spend my time trying to inform them on things or have a discussion with them, but my time would be better spent on someone who would be important to me in my life, especially in terms of ideology, whether that be a friend or a girlfriend or
Someone in
someone
the
or
family.
a coworker or something, someone who I have to have extended personal contact with. That would be someone who would
I
be
feel
more
like there are
important.
times when I can't let things slide if I see it in passing. Like, let's say I'm on Facebook and some random person says something and it's blatantly false, or it's blatantly ignorant, or it's blatantly wrong. I feel almost like I have an innate need to correct it, to be like, that's not okay. You can't say that, or you shouldn't say
I might
that.
use those people as an opportunity to vent,
Sometimes I do that.
but I very much I don't think the see something say something applies to the internet because it just creates.
No, I'm not saying that. I don't think see something, say
But
something.
like
No, not at all.
but like if I see something stupid on the internet, I just maybe point and snicker to myself in my
I
own
think
head.
it's more the fact that I can see, if I see it, it means other people see it.
Yeah.
And I feel bad that so much misinformation just goes around everywhere.
Well, I think I like to do that in my real life.
Okay.
Like if someone says something off kilter in real life, then I'm more apt to correct them than someone who says something off kilter on the internet. Because someone in real life is more willing to pay attention to your tone and what you're trying to convey. But someone on the internet is very rarely looking
Well,
to
I think,
change
yeah, the written
themselves.
word is harder, like
So
texting. Well, I
so
told you that before. When you text someone, we don't they don't see our they don't hear our tone or how we mean to say something. It might come out a lot more harsh than how it's
yeah,
intended.
in a Facebook comments thread or a Twitter feed is even less personal than text. So
But I think so now, if you think about phones and society having everybody has a phone in their hand, right? Everybody can go on Facebook or go on whatever. They have phones. Even when I was talking about when I would pick you up from Starbucks back when you're in high school, everybody had a phone in their hand and they were busy doing that instead of conversing and stuff like that. So generationally, it's different. But do we think that technology is making us less personable?
I think the technology is abused and wrongly blamed for
Well,
making
it's
us less
something I think I saw
personal.
something that said 81% of millennials are fearful of making a phone call. So they'll text someone, but they won't call someone. And I think you're not a millennial, but you're more apt to not want to call someone.
Yeah, but that's for me personally, not necessarily in terms of that statistic, but for me personally, I prefer to see someone in person to calling them or texting them. I don't like speaking on the phone that much at all because it's not it's just in between impersonal and personal. Like texting is very impersonal. It doesn't you can respond whenever you want. It's asynchronous. And seeing someone in person is a full-on immersed experience. But a call is like somewhere in between. It's like you
Well, they can hear your tone.
they can
I
he,
think that's a
they can hear
difference.
what you're trying to convey, but you also can't see them and you can't convey the body language with them. So then you're just I don't know about other people, but I'm just left wanting to twiddle my thumbs or
No, I do that.
work on something else. I hate
That's
I
what I
hate
do.
the middle. I hate being in limbo. But I don't think that millennials are any less social than Gen X's or Zoomers. I think the problem is that it becomes more it becomes more and more difficult to 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 deal with people in person.
Well, is it okay? So is it just different and something that, for years when the TVs came out, right? Nobody had TVs and then people had TVs and the older generation said TVs are going to run people. And when the radios came out way back before TVs, the older generation said that's going to run people. So technology has always been something that's scary for the older generations, right? And then now the thought is phones are going to ruin people. Kids are always on their phones. They're not talking. Is it really, or is it just something different? It's different now. So we need to adapt to the different.
I think phones themselves aren't dangerous at all, but I think that what is dangerous is what we use on our phones. Like 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 your social media
Mhm.
and not just social media, even how we consume media. Like back when TVs were ooh, moving on, there's so many cables. Back when TVs were on cable and stuff, you would watch something, there would only be a limited number of things on. So you kind of would have things you watched in common with people
Mhm.
no matter what. Now the variety kind of makes it so you can be in completely different cultural worlds, which is a good thing and a bad thing because it's a bad thing because you no longer get to mesh with people who are somewhat outside of your circle, but it's a good thing because you get to be more of an individual.
But then are we losing our social ties altogether?
Well, I think
Because we're
that
not hanging around people in our
I think
neighborhoods.
that I see amongst Gen Zers that people want people my age want to find people that are very like-minded and then they want to be tight knit with
Well,
them.
that's what I was saying
But
earlier.
but they don't but we don't I think in contrast to former generations, we're far less interested in chilling with randos.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, but you don't even like kids don't play in neighborhoods
Well,
anymore.
that's a problem, but that's the parents' fault.
But is it a lack of is it that there's too much other stuff that they could be doing? They don't need to. Like when we were kids, we always said we were bored, right? So, oh, I'm bored. I want to I don't want to sit in here. I don't want so we'd go find a friend and be bored together, because we'd still say we were bored. Well, I want to play basketball. Oh, it's boring. I'm going to go do this. It's boring. We were always bored, just like you guys are always bored. Kids are always bored. But now we have so much, or kids have so much that they can keep themselves busy with. They still say they're bored, but maybe they don't need that outside. They need it, but they don't get that outside uh, social aspect because they're doing everything so individually.
Well, I think it's more social than you think. Like if you are a kid who plays video games, you're likely on Discord chatting with other kids playing video games, which is essentially the same thing as going over to your friend's house and playing basketball.
Yeah.
And if you're a kid who's very social media focused, then you may be on group chats, and you might be friends with, if you're a models.
But does it make them more? Does it make kids more at risk of being bullied?
Well, social media is a breeding ground for bullies, but anywhere where there's young kids and social.
Does it make kids more apt to start seeing things like and believing in things that are maybe like conspiracy theories and that stuff? I know that elderly people or older people, boomers, the boomers today that are new to technology, are more likely to fall into that pit, those rabbit holes of conspiracy theories than the younger generation, mainly because they don't understand the technology and they think that everything they see is real because somebody said it. They're inherently, they trust people, right? So they inherently believe that everything they see is real. It's not a bot talking to them, it's somebody real that's telling them something. So old people or older people are more likely to fall into that pit of conspiracy. But what about kids? What about kids getting into groups that are bad white supremacist groups? Or
Well, everything in the world has a has a you need to learn to do it. Like, you can't just hop onto social media not knowing the rules. And you can't hop onto the internet not knowing the rules. The rules of the internet are, there are certain things you can't just take an article at face value, and you can't. The internet's full of lies. Everyone
yeah.
should go into the internet knowing it's full of lies.
Well, I think that's why boomers struggle with it, because they came from a generation where people maybe lied less. No, I don't think they lied less, but
people
there was the
absolutely
era
lied.
of trusting. There were authoritative, like you trusted authority. You trusted the doctor that told you.
Well, the doctor regularly did prescribe things that were wrong. Like for women, doctors
Yeah.
are horrible to women back then.
Doctors are still horrible to women.
But doctors were super horrible to women,
Mhm.
and they like deferred to their husbands and drugged them for their
Mhm.
husbands. So people have been lying forever. People have been
But
bullying.
I think that they were more apt, that generation, so the boomer generation was more apt to say, I trust authority, ergo, when I go onto the internet, that's an authoritative figure. I need to trust them. And maybe that's why they fall down those rabbit holes that others don't.
Yeah, but I think that these rabbit holes of conspiracy and craziness there's only one solution that we constantly like. We want to find every other solution for it, but we don't just educate people.
Mhm.
Like, no one's educated on these things, you know? Like, going into the internet, there's always going to be crazy fringes. Unless you censor the internet widely, which would destroy the point of the internet,
Mhm.
you're going to find people that.
But how do we prevent the fringe from being, obviously the fringe is always loud. The person that screams the loudest isn't necessarily the person that has the most knowledge, but the fringe is generally on either side of the aisle, or they're the loudest. They're the ones screaming the loudest. And people that are new to it, or people, young people and old people that aren't maybe in society so often, they can find those things alluring because they're so loud, right? There's a lot of static and stuff that they're hearing, so they're attracted to it. Like, is that generationally? So Gen Xers are kind of aloof. We kind of didn't care. We were like, yeah, whatever.
They
And
are until they
we're
aren't.
also skeptics inherently, are my generation. I think millennials are less skeptical but more gullible. And I think you guys, the Zoomers, are kind of coming out the other side and gaining a lot more knowledge. But like with you guys, I'll give you the example. You guys grew up on YouTube, your brother and you, and you still watch a lot of YouTube, but you guys get a lot of really good information from that. You guys know things that I never dreamed of knowing when I was a kid because it wasn't taught in school and we weren't going through encyclopedias in our afternoon, but literally you guys sit in front of a computer screen and can learn things about quantum physics, stuff that I would never have learned at 11, 12, 13, 15 years old. So I think that kind of stuff will make you a more well-rounded generation, because if it can, if we can rise the stars to the top, you guys have a lot more information that if you can disseminate the right stuff, it'll be great for your generation.
Well, my point earlier was just that everyone thinks that a lot of things that aren't new are new.
Yeah.
Things like incels.
Yeah.
You really think incels are new? People think incels a new movement.
No, I don't. Well,
the movement's
tell
new because
someone
they all got together.
what an incel is. A lot of people won't know that.
It stands for involuntarily celibate.
Celibate.
And it's essentially a group of men who...
It's just one man. I mean, a man is an incel.
Well, yeah, but incels congregate. They don't generally not talk to each other. But they believe that they essentially hate women. They believe that women are at fault for their not having any women.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a very misogynistic, sexist, self-defeating group. But it's like incels have existed as long as women rejecting men have existed.
Yeah.
There's going to be men that aren't well-rounded, and they're going to internalize things incorrectly as long as human psychology exists.
Yeah.
So just because Reddit has given you, or 4chan or wherever has given you a forum to congregate with these people, doesn't make it a new thing. The only way we're going to reduce, and I say reduce and not eliminate these types of things, is just to make sure that the populations are more educated, because more educated populations not only don't do these things as often, but they raise children that don't do these things as often.
And I think that's the most important thing. If you can, especially if you can teach the women. I mean, in other countries where they try to teach the women, so the women teach the children the right things to do.
But that's the problem. The problem is you see these problems. People see these problems and they say, oh, look, Reddit has incels. Reddit is bad. Like one time I told someone I was on Reddit and they were like, oh, Reddit has a lot of white supremacists.
Ergo, Reddit must be bad because
and I was like, Reddit also has a lot of AOC voters.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So people misattribute.
I think the assumption, right? The assumption that because something, therefore everything else is bad.
But it's the wrongly thing is the problem is people are uneducated, and the proposed solution is always get rid of the internet.
Yeah.
Do you see how that doesn't make sense?
What about the other side? The other side is, a lot of people are complaining, oh, there's so much censorship going on right now. And I don't necessarily know if I agree with that. I don't think that the masses are being censored. I think those social media giants are finally stepping up and saying, you don't get to say things that aren't true.
It depends.
But then that's a slippery slope, right? Because then they get to decide what's true.
I think that each social media giant is a private company and they can do as the public pressures them. And that's generally a good thing. But it can always fall too much to one side. But I think it's pretty self-correcting. I think that like Twitter getting rid of Trump, I think was the right move because he incites problems.
But they should have gotten rid of Trump 4 years ago.
Of course they should have.
I think that was the problem. They waited until he was such a problem and so polarizing to finally say enough of your lies.
Had they gotten rid of Trump too early, he could have done things.
No, I get it. I understand.
He could have attacked them.
But I think Trump got away with everything, right? So because Trump got away with so much, is that why we're so apt to make everyone else not get away with anything? Is that part of the reason that there's so much cancel culture now? Because we've gone so far on the other side? Like, did somebody like him that's so disparaging and so polarizing and so problematic, did that cause the other side to say, okay, if you say the wrong thing, we're going to take you away. Like, you don't get a voice anymore. You don't get, like, what did it do? He got away with everything, so everyone else can't get away with anything. Has that happened?
Well, maybe to a degree. I think it was there before Donald Trump.
Well, I think that the Me Too movement happened over the last 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So that was something.
But the Me Too movement is good in a way because it's like, hey, don't rape us.
Yes.
But the Me Too movement is bad
Yeah.
because someone says something that Me Too has decided is bad, and it isn't bad,
And it isn't
and they
bad.
cancel them, and that person doesn't deserve to be disparaged
Yeah.
just because X amount of women were raped. As long as he hasn't raped a woman,
Yeah.
he or she, like, it doesn't make any sense.
Well, has it made men? You're a man, so has it made you nervous?
Of course, I don't ever want to be caught in a situation where, uh, I don't know, someone says something untrue about me, and I very much I am overly cautious with people in my encounters,
Well,
making sure that I am like, are you okay? Is this okay?
Uh-huh.
Is everything okay? Are you still sure you're okay?
Well, and some women will argue that now that men have to question all the time if they're doing the right thing, women have questioned forever what they did. Was my skirt too short? Did I turn the wrong way? Was I overly flirtatious when I acted out? So now they're saying that the correction is now men are kind of having to feel what we felt for millennia, right? And is it an overplay on things? Is it saying now, haha, you guys get to feel what we felt?
I don't think that is, well, obviously I'm a man, so
Yeah,
it benefits me to say this, but I also think, just in all fairness, and one group's plight doesn't justify another group's suffering.
I agree. I agree with that.
So today I was having a discussion with someone, and they said something about men ain't crap, men ain't whatever.
She said that?
On Twitter you can go say men are crap and it doesn't
Okay,
matter.
okay.
But on Reddit or on Twitter, if you go say women are crap, you get canceled, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I told her, you shouldn't do that because no one should be saying.
She was saying men.
Yes, because that's just like a thing women say.
Okay.
Like, you've been on Twitter.
Yeah,
It's literally
I'm on
in
Twitter.
people's bios.
Yeah.
So I was like, you shouldn't say that because it's not nice, and people should just not be mean to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, well, women have suffered a lot, so they are allowed to say more things than men. And I told her that it's still wrong because it puts people through suffering. There's a lot of men out there who are fine people, and they hear that kind of stuff, and men aren't good at reaching out to their support networks.
Yeah.
So they internalize it and they feel bad and they just keep it in, and then you end up with a extraordinarily disproportionately high male suicide rate.
Because they don't talk to their friends in the same way that women talk to their friends.
They don't go to their support groups. They don't feel like they're allowed to be weak.
I don't think men have the same support groups. I think that men are more inclined to
men have
make
mothers.
fun of each other.
Men have
That's
mothers
true.
and
That's
men
true.
have sisters.
That's
so
true.
there is some degree. But
they don't feel as comfortable.
Men won't go to other men, and men a lot of times won't go to other women. But I said, do you wanting to make the joke about how men are evil? Do you really want to do that at the expense of people feeling really hating themselves?
And what'd she say?
And she agreed with me. She was like, you know what? You're right. That people should just be good to each other. And I was like, who would have thunk?
Yeah. Well, and that's, I think, what we're missing in society.
So no, men should not have to question whether they're raping a girl all the time just because girls had to question whether they incited a rape. No woman has ever incited a rape.
That's true.
For her skirt length.
No.
It is horrible that anyone has ever said that.
And it's horrible that they had to consider that. Like, whether they were told that, well, maybe you were too sexy.
That. And it's horrible that they were told that.
I think we're still told that.
But just because people are told one thing, you shouldn't, again, one group's suffering doesn't justify another's.
Yeah, I agree. So Me Too made men nervous.
And some men think, oh, feminism's bad and Me Too is evil and I'm going to do what I want.
Yeah.
A lot of men like that.
Did feminism go too far?
Depends on what you mean when you say feminism. Feminism no longer has a definition.
No, it's not like it was originally.
Feminism no longer has a definition. The original definition of feminism was men and women have equal rights. And now the definition of feminism could be men and women have equal rights, or it could be that women should be afforded more rights because of their former lack of rights.
Which goes back to what we were saying, right? Because that's the thought process
that
some people say we were oppressed for so long.
If that were to be the definition of feminism, I would not call myself a proud feminist. If men and women having equal rights were to be the definition of feminism, then I would be a proud feminist. However, since the word has become so contorted into nothing, we should either find a new word.
And
or
do we need to redefine and make a new word?
The old
or do
word,
we just need to
the old word ain't
rein
working.
it in and fix that? Like, do we need to bring back the Gloria Steinems, the original burn your bra women of the 60s who said we want equal right, we want equal pay. That's what we're looking for. We don't, it's not about opening our doors or bringing us flowers. But I think that went so far over. Like my mother, that age group, that's what they were, right? We can be independent, we can work, we can make what you make, we can do your jobs. But how far over did we go where we tried to dominate the jobs and then what happens? Then you have a play for power.
Well, the people overcomplicate. Though there would be a very easy way to solve all gender and race related workforce problems, and it would be this: make sure everyone is equally educated,
Mm-hmm.
and then make sure the people hiring people really, truly only consider qualifications. Because by those two virtues alone, you would end up with a balanced workforce. Not by disproportionately hiring someone because they're X, Y, or Z. No, hiring people by their merit alone and making sure everyone is equally educated would balance out the workforce in a few generations. And it would be a few generations because change like that is slow and people want it tomorrow.
That's what I think. That people think they assume that change is going to happen overnight. So I think that's one of the issues too.
You would have to first accept that it would be a few generations, and second, stop pushing for things that are stupid.
Like what?
Like putting people, like when Joe Biden was congratulated for having people of X, Y, or Z color in the administration.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's bad that Joe Biden has those people of X, Y, or Z color in the administration, or women or whatever. That's excellent. But if they were chosen at the expense of someone who was more qualified just by virtue of their skin color, that's just,
then it doesn't.
It's the same thing as when people are chosen for being white.
Mm-hmm.
People should be chosen by merit.
Yeah, for what they did or accomplished.
Yeah, and then
but I think the argument. He did. I mean, I
don't think he did anything bad. I just think the fact that it made headlines is pretty sad.
Yeah, that's the headline we have to have in 2021.
Yeah, it was so stupid, and the argument then circles around to, oh well, people of color have less opportunities early on in their life, and it's like, yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly. We need to balance out everything at every level, or else it'll never be fair.
I'm in my mid 40s now. For me, it's not the same if I lose a job and have to get another job. It's harder for me to get a job because I'm a female, but I'm in my mid 40s. So I definitely have to compete with a lot of young. I could have way more experience and way more knowledge, but I am not looked at the same way as somebody in their mid 40s. A male is looked at.
And it's interesting because you're probably looked at as worse than a younger woman as well. But younger women, like they used to be, they avoided younger women because they went and had kids. You're not going to go and have.
I'm not going to have any more kids.
I know. Do you think you'd be more valuable?
And I have more experience, and I have more, and I've done my job longer.
It's
bad. Harder as a woman.
It's bad that's bad, and it's also bad. It's also, you're not legally supposed to do that.
No,
you're not. You're supposed to not consider people's age, but you're not supposed to consider people's age if they're old.
You can
but you can totally consider someone who's too young.
Yes,
which I think is horrible.
Yeah, because you're young.
So why if we really want to make it blind to everything but qualifications, then you should never discount someone just because they're too young or too old. That's true.
No, I agree. I think that,
like how insurance can sell more, can charge more for insurance on the basis of you being young, because statistically you being young makes a difference to your driving ability, not because of you as an individual.
Well, the same with having somebody that supposedly has good grades. You get a discount. I get a discount for your driving because when you were in school you had good grades,
which has nothing to do with
your driving. I mean, maybe ability. Statistically, somebody
maybe
that is
your ability to make good decisions.
But I think it was like the cutoff was like you were supposed to have a 3.0. I think that was the GPA.
So B's.
So if you're a mediocre student, you somehow drive better, which didn't make any sense. Men, there's another one. Boys statistically are more risky and get into more accidents, so your insurance was more expensive. I paid $1,000 more than my friends that had girls because you were a boy. Is
Yeah.
that fair?
Well, I don't see anyone getting up in arms in Twitter about it, but it's just as horrible.
Yeah, I think that that's an issue. So generational, those are also
there's a lot of
disparities.
if you say anything about men's rights, you get pegged a meninist and swept under the rug. But there are a lot of issues unique to men that should be talked about at the very least. Like there's only one shelter for men who have been abused, and there's like 150, 100
like in any
bajillion
region.
across for women across the nation.
But I think it's less.
But men are abused at the same rates in partnerships
But
as women.
Really? Is that really the thing?
They're abused at the same rates as, at least my understanding is that men are abused at the same rates.
But
domestic abuse.
I don't think they seek out. I think they have. Remember, this is a difference here, and yet maybe that's possible. I could see that, but men are often the breadwinners, and if they're abused, they can. If they separate from the woman, they're still making that same amount of money. But a lot of times, the women that are abused not only are themselves, but that maybe they're not working, but they also have a child, and when they break away from the man, they have to find money and they have to find childcare.
Well, I don't think that really merits not having resources for people who were in that situation. But maybe the
resources are not there because that doesn't exist as much. Not that the abuse doesn't exist. I can understand that. But I think that the men have more opportunities because they have more access to things, because generally they're the one making the money. So that nothing changes for them. They stay in their apartment, they stay in their home. The woman has to run.
Well,
right?
There could be a lot of nuance to this that I've yet to learn. But all I know thus far is that men are abused at the same rate in partnerships as women, and there aren't any resources for these men. I'm sure in some situations those resources are needed. And there's other stuff. Men don't get their kids as much in divorces, and men
but
don't.
Do men always want their kids as much?
I'm sure that there are plenty of men who want. They all go to court over it.
Yeah.
Costs a lot of money for them to not want something. Maybe they don't want to pay child support.
Yeah, I think it depends on a lot of things, right? I don't know. I guess maybe I'm a little jaded on those things, only because I see what I've seen my whole life, right? I mean, men they aren't the child, they aren't the carers of the child.
Until they are.
I guess.
In your experience, the men haven't been, I know the men in your life, but there's plenty of people who had no mom and a wonderful father who took care of them the whole way through.
That's true.
So to discount those people is very unfair.
Parents, I think that what was it on that 90 Day Fiance? There was the guy who he was gay and he raised
alone.
He was a single father and he raised
several well-adjusted daughters,
a set of twin daughters and a son, right?
I thought it was all daughters.
Oh,
might have been.
I thought there was a son in there.
It was like a jillion kids, and he did it all alone,
all on his own,
just out of his own nurturing little spirit. So to say that men aren't the caregivers and aren't doing any of that, I think is a little bit of an unfair thing to say.
That's true.
Maybe at lower rates.
Yeah.
But not to discount the people who are doing it, I don't think is fair. And that's the thing in society, right? Like men are seen as less loving and less caring. And then we internalize it and we become less loving and caring because we're mad about it. And then it's a vicious cycle.
But is it that we raise you that way? Not to be uncaring, but I mean, I think that girls are raised differently than boys in that regard.
Girls have to be raised differently than boys.
When a girl falls down, the dad would pick up the girl and say, "Are you okay? Wipe it out. Let me help you, whatever." The boy falls down. He doesn't always get the same reaction.
But he should. He should feel cared for.
Yes.
Boys should.
And they don't often.
But if they were shown care, they would be more apt to show care as they were older. So.
Well, that's how I always raised you guys. I didn't have girls. So I can't exactly say that I raised a girl different than I raised boys.
I have girls.
But I have my nieces that I love as my daughters.
Yeah.
But I mean, like I didn't raise a girl, but I was always very much, I wanted to meet your needs always. And I think your dad did too. So you guys were lucky because you had a dad that wasn't pick yourself up by your bootstraps and wipe it off, boy, and get out there and do it. You didn't have that dad, so
Well, yeah, I'm just people. I think people would be more adjusted if we treated everyone fairly. It always goes back to treating everyone the same instead of treating everyone to some sort of false image you've created.
Yeah.
Well, it's like video games, right? Did you know that there's a conception that women don't play video games?
I think it's a misconception.
And then there's a conception that then if you say, oh, okay, women do play video games, but I'm an angry man on Reddit, so I think that they mean video game, quote, they play Candy Crush.
Like that I play Pet Rescue Saga.
But yeah, but like the argument is always women do play video games, but it's just like Candy Crush. It's not like real video games. But actually women play video games at roughly the same rate as men.
Women.
So women are out here gamers too. So,
I played video games since I was a kid. Like I always, and not.
but like,
listen, now I play a lot of those silly games, right? But I could still play those other games
but like
too.
women like be buying PS5s like and gaming PCs to like play full like real. Like I agree with those people that phone games aren't real games, but I don't agree with them that women don't play real games. Women absolutely play real games. If you go on Reddit, if you go on any subreddit where there's a lot of women, they're all like, well, I play Legend of Zelda and Call of Duty. And it's like, whoa, these girls are cool. I want to be their friend.
Well, I think that, so Gen X, I think we started.
Well, you guys play video games too.
Well, we had the NES. Oh, well, I take that back. When we were little, we had Ataris. Right?
Yeah, the NES.
And then the NES was probably the first. It was 2D.
Weren't you pretty old when the NES came out?
I was in 7th grade.
So
over my 7th grade
ish.
My 7th grade summer, I saved enough money, $100, to go buy one, and that was my first video game console. But it was 2D. But I mean, it had Super Mario Brothers. It had things that were like you had to figure out levels. You had to.
No, those are all real video games.
Those are all real video games.
Yeah.
We started that, and I'm not saying girls versus boys. We sat in my.
But I'm sure girls wanted Ataris a lot.
Absolutely. We all did. I think I was more of a tomboy, so I probably liked it more than a lot of women.
I mean, I guess if
Girls.
you're a quote girly girl, you might not want one, but like to box yourself into being a girly girl.
Everybody kind of liked it at the time. Like everyone would come over to my house and play it. It didn't matter who you were.
I was in kindergarten and my girlfriend, my girl dash friend got a Wii. And she played the Wii.
And you were very upset
about that. She played the Wii. We went to her house and she played the Wii.
That's right.
All the time. She was a girl and her sister was a girl.
Mm-hmm.
They played the Wii.
Yep.
So...
No, I think I still do. I think your brother plays with girls when he's playing all of his
friends all sound like girls, so it's hard for me to tell.
Their voices are definitely going to change.
Hey, guys!
No, there are still girls on his channel.
Yeah, but sometimes it's like, I've seen him talk to some, like, I've heard him talk to some, like, 16, 17, like older girls, and I'm always like, who are you talking to?
Oh, their voices they sound a lot older than they are. Well, and there's the problem with not being able to see somebody we were talking about earlier, because you don't know. You might get tricked yourself. You have to be careful.
You have to be careful, but you also have to be careful not on the internet. So just apply your real life rules.
I guess so. I guess some girls might look older. Some boys might look older.
I'm just saying,
they really are.
In every aspect of your life, you must take care to not get hurt. The internet is no different.
Yeah.
I don't know why people they don't make you wear hamster balls when you go out on the street.
Hamster balls?
They don't put you in a protective bubble to go out on the street. So why does everyone want a protective bubble in the internet? It's up to you to take care of yourself.
Take care of yourself. Well, I think that the problem is some parents in my generation don't 100% understand the depth of the internet, and they don't know how to prevent their kids from getting into trouble. I had pretty serious rules for you guys, but it still let you have a ton of freedom.
Yeah.
Which a lot of parents don't do that. A lot of parents are so afraid that they deny their children the ability to have those things. I let you have a Facebook, but you had to stay anonymous. I think that's huge. And people, and I was still monitoring and watching what you were doing.
Have we already said this on the show?
I don't know.
I think we already talked about
I'm just saying, when we're talking about, we have to be careful.
Well, unfortunately, in 2020, internet illiteracy is no longer an acceptable position. If you're a parent and you're illiterate in the internet, you are doing your kids a disservice.
I still know a lot of them in my generation.
And it's unacceptable.
It's bad.
It's their responsibilities to become educated so that they may educate their kids.
And even if you're not a gamer, right, you could still know how technology works.
It's not that hard to get with the trend.
Yeah.
So,
and I still have to catch up. Sometimes you guys will talk about something when you first brought out Discord during the shutdown when we were trying to have a Easter.
We've had Discord for years.
We were trying to.
Yeah.
I know, but I didn't really understand it the first place, and I had to learn what that was so we could have a family chat and not use Zoom, right?
Yeah, we didn't want to use Zoom.
So
dumb.
That was new to me, but I caught up. Okay, now I get it. I don't think.
Well, yeah, unfortunately, as has always been the case on planet Earth, when something new happens, you either catch up or get left behind.
Yeah. Well, and convenience. So things have become very convenient. Do you think that convenience has harmed us? Like, is it so? I think that what I'm getting at.
What I'm
getting at is
you gotta make sure you're talking.
What I'm getting at is artisans, I think, are coming back, right?
Yeah, artisans are coming. We were talking about that.
We were talking about that earlier. So
yeah, because
But has convenience harmed us? Because everything is so convenient.
Well, we've lost a sort of reverence for the things that we enjoy in life.
I think it was you.
We already talked about Starbucks coffee versus real coffee.
Yeah,
it's just like that. Trade coffees,
artisan, yeah,
more artisanal.
That's right. Which, when I was young, what I was talking about with those coffee houses, those were all independently owned and artisanal. And I think that today that's kind of making a comeback because
the millennials sparked that.
When I think there's a lot, the millennials did spark that. So is Babish a millennial? Binging with Babish?
Oh yeah, he's in his 30s. He's not
as old as me.
He's older than me.
Well, I'm older than you too.
He's not as old as you. No way, he's as old as you.
I just think because he's baldy and kind of gray beard.
His girlfriend is, God, she's
okay. So he's a millennial.
Yeah,
and he's bringing back like artisanal foods, right?
Well, he's not alone doing it, but he's an example.
No. That's an example of somebody that does it. But that's what I'm saying. Like, we were talking earlier, and the example that I brought up is Joe Giudice from the Real Housewives of New Jersey. Went to jail because he and his wife caused, they got into financial problems and I don't know exactly, mail fraud. I don't know. They both went to jail. He went for 4 years and she went for like a year. But when he got out, apparently his parents had brought him here from Italy when he was 2 years old.
Can't believe we deported him.
Yeah, and they deported him because he was not an American citizen. Yeah, he didn't have any. All those years he had a chance to go get his citizenship and he didn't. And they deported him because he had a felony, right? So he's now living in Italy, but he has a YouTube channel where he like explains a lot of the stuff that's happening in Italy. And I follow this channel because I think it's pretty cool. Even though he was really a dick on the show. But anyway, the other day he went to a gas station in Italy and had like a full meal. And I thought that was really cool because in the United States, you go to a gas station and you get a microwave hamburger if you want to eat something.
You get sushi that kills you.
You get sushi that kills you. So, or you get cheese whiz that has botulism. I don't know, bad stuff.
You get a Slurpee.
Or you get a Slurpee. Yeah, that's really good. But
it's not artisanal.
But it's not artisanal. But you can go to Italy and at the gas station you can have a full like delicacy meal.
Well, I'm glad we're bringing back artisanal. I hope it pervades into all of society because today we were watching our YouTube, right? And it was like on YouTube, it was the guy and he was showing us how he cuts a cow into meat. And how he does each individual cut and how he does it himself by hand and blah, blah, blah. And he had so much like reverence for the meat in his craft. And then I was like, well, we watched this guy, no music, just him doing it. And he was explaining it the whole way through. And then I was like, well, let's compare that to like Food Network. Is it Food Network? Well, I don't know if it's Food Network.
No, Food Network would be a good example.
And it's like, welcome back to Drivers, Diners, and Drives. That's really good. Oh, is this bacon wrapped? Oh yeah. This is we're here in Mississippi, Kentucky, eating some burgers.
Did you say Mississippi, Kentucky? You're horrible.
So
yes, and I think that they do like 1,000 episodes of Cake Boss or Cake whatever. Cake,
yeah, and it's like yes, I've made a cake and it's very good. As you've seen, I've put eggs in the cake.
Anyway, but what we're seeing, I think that there's a renaissance of artisanal everything. Etsy, right? You can go on Etsy and get things that are made by people.
Or drop ships from China.
Yeah, but it wasn't originally. I mean, I think the whole idea behind it was people making cool stuff and wanting to have a avenue to sell
I bought
cool
something
stuff.
from Etsy and I got it through like the French post and I was like, oh.
I did too. The tie that I got you for your brother or your uncle's wedding was from, I think, England. She sent it. Somebody
Yeah.
had made that type of tie.
And now I buy things in Great British pounds.
Let's see.
And it's like 10 GBP. And it's like, what's a GBP?
But is that the difference between here and other places? Are they more artisanal in other places? I think so.
Not the Brits.
No, I mean the whole world.
I think the Europeans do a better job of it.
Yeah.
And I think the Japanese are the pinnacle of it.
Mhm.
Japanese people appreciate frickin' everything. The Japanese people are so good at having cool things.
Back to the guy that was cutting the meat.
He was American.
He was American, but he did it almost with like a reverence for the almost like.
Well, Americans have it too. It's here.
It's here, but I think like almost like he was thankful that the cow was giving him what it was giving him. I think that's really cool because we've lost that, right?
Yeah,
because we don't see it. We don't see. We go to the store, we get our packs of meat, we go home, we stick them on the barbecue.
Well, we have like the city boy mindset, but then we never counterbalance it with any grounding. So we're always just up in the air with nonsense. It's like that show is my best example because he's Guy Fieri, man. I love him, but ooh,
he's not exactly. He doesn't. I don't think he passed the etiquette course.
Well, like I'm sure the Europeans see him and they're like, "Oh, this guy."
Yeah, no, I don't think he's.
And then they come
he's
to
a fun guy, I'm sure.
Yeah,
but
when they come to America and we're not all Guy Fieri, and they're like,
I think they do kind of wonder. I think sometimes they do wonder that. I think they think we're all Guy Fieri because that's what we show on our TV, right?
I think we should do some rebranding.
Are we lacking culture, or do we just?
Well, I wouldn't trade Guy Fieri for the world, but maybe we could have something in addition to Guy Fieri.
In addition to Guy Fieri, no, we do. I think we do.
I think it's coming. I think it's getting bigger.
Yeah.
I think it was always there. Like Americans have always been artisans. We've made stuff and done stuff, but then we got really commercial for a while, and we're still really commercial, but we're.
But is it convenience that stopped that? Is it the fact that we can get anything we want so quickly that we kind of just gave up? Like,
Like big companies figured out they could take things that were valuable experiences and strip them down and sell them to you. So that's what they did.
Well, and like think of what they've done with candy bars. So tonight we went into that candy store at Irvine Spectrum, and they have a lot of different. Like when I was a kid, there was a Kit Kat. You ate a Kit Kat. You wanted a Kit Kat. You ate a Kit Kat. You had a Butterfinger. Now they have 17 different flavors of Kit Kat.
Yeah, people are like,
but that's not really artisanry.
Yeah,
I think that is something that it's more convenience.
That's culture because a lot of the Kit Kats that are cool flavors are Japanese.
No, but I'm just saying in general, like when that first started happening, that just added to the convenience. Yeah. That didn't really like expand our palates. It didn't like make us. It was still a Kit Kat. It just had 10 different flavors of Kit Kat.
Yeah,
right.
I don't know. Convenience
has done this. Do we need everything to be so convenient?
I think that there can be a healthy mix of both. Like, do I think that the desire for artisanry should destroy my beloved green tea Kit Kats?
No, but that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I think that we've become such getting Amazon. You know what? Sometimes I don't want to get dressed and go to the store because you know what? I can order it on Amazon and it will come the next day. And so why would I bother going to the store?
Well, I think Amazon's existence is a pox on the world.
Well, we use it.
I know, but
we both agree it's horrible, but we both use it. It's not like we're doing anything to take away the convenience.
Well, unfortunately,
two of us isn't going to change the world.
Unfortunately, not only would us boycotting it not change it, us organizing a boycott wouldn't change it.
But that's what I'm saying. Have we become too convenient that now we're lacking that? Will there be a renaissance?
Well,
do you predict it?
I increasingly see sentiments growing against Amazon, against Facebook, against essentially any company that gets too big for their britches. And I'm sure that will eventually culminate in policy that will break them up.
I think it will.
And
I hope it does.
And then as
Bezos
perfectly
has
balanced
now stepped down.
as
you
all
heard about that, right?
Yeah, but he just stepped down to work on Space Blue or Blue Space or whatever.
But
His SpaceX.
But is it telling? Is it saying that there's changes coming? Does he know? Is the writing on the wall?
I think the writing will be on the wall more if the FTC breaks up. I think they're closest to breaking up Facebook. And I think they really want to break up Facebook.
So if they break up Facebook, though, but Facebook is still there.
Well, Facebook will own Facebook instead of Facebook will own. Facebook owns Facebook, Oculus, Instagram, WhatsApp, a bunch of other subsidiaries. We don't know. Messenger is Facebook Messenger is,
but it's
is
not separate. You can't just have. I think you can just have Messenger, right?
It's a separate app, but it's part of Facebook's infrastructure.
But that's what I'm saying. Like,
but Instagram.
Let's say it breaks up. Let's say Zuck is only now allowed to handle Facebook. Does it change how horrible Facebook is?
Well, if Zuck only gets Facebook, Facebook's sort of going downhill. So
will it accelerate that?
I think so.
Because I think it would be a good thing if that no longer existed.
There's so many young people that are on Instagram, and to have Instagram not be owned by Zuck would be a great burden off of my mind.
Would he just have to sell it?
Yeah.
So it'd be like a forced sale.
I don't think.
Or would you just have to make a new CEO and he could still be at the top? How does that work?
There's precedent. When it was General Oil and Teddy Roosevelt and Taft were like, "You're a trust, you're a monopoly," and then they turned it into now Exxon and Shell and all that are a result of that trust busting. So what we would do is trust bust. I think
the problem came that I think that these big tech companies came in, kind of snuck in, and didn't think people would notice. I don't think a lot of people know that those guys own so many of those.
I don't think in 2010 that Zuck knew he would do any of this. I think in 2010 when Facebook was pretty new, Zuck was like, "Well, gee, I really did connect people, didn't I?" And then at some point it became, "Oh, look how much money I can make. Oh, look, I can own these guys. When it became
ad-based.
Oh, I can control this. Oh, I have so much power. I'm Mark Zuckerberg now." Yeah. So at some point he just got morally bankrupt.
But I think that happens to a lot of them. I think that when Jeff Bezos in his garage in like 1997 made Amazon, the notion was great.
They're all weak-minded.
The idea was great.
They're all weak-minded people.
But I think that the power is what gets them.
I look at Tim Apple, who I consider to be a strong-minded person, and even Steve Wozniak, who I sometimes think is annoying. I still think Steve Wozniak's really annoying.
From Microsoft.
But from Apple.
Oh, Wozniak. I'm thinking of. Yeah, okay.
Steve Wozniak is really annoying, but I think he's a strong-minded person. And Elon Musk, I think, is a strong-minded person. I think no matter how big Elon Musk got, he would continue to do things that actually propelled the world forward.
I agree.
And
I think that his overall goal is to do good things.
And I think Tim Apple is the same. And I think even though Tim Apple is questionable sometimes, Apple...
What is his real last name?
Tim Cook. Yeah, but I prefer Tim Apple now.
The Trump
Apple does some questionable things, so maybe not... Tim Apple might not be the best thing, but I'm just saying...
I think Elon Musk probably does some questionable things.
Yeah, but like Apple like straight up does sweatshops. Like,
oh, you mean in that way?
Yeah, but like anyway,
I'm pretty sure that Tesla has their form of it in China. He has a big Tesla has.
I think he does it all in his mega factory, and I don't think he's working kids to death there.
I don't know.
But anyway, I think is oh god, I think that Bezos and Zuck aren't. I think they're little nerdy boys who got too much power and let it get to their head. I think
Bill Gates is the same.
Yeah.
Those guys that were ultra nerdy. I think that Bill Gates came up under what's his name? The old guy. The stock market. Warren Buffett.
Warren Buffett and Bill Gates are buddies.
But I think that Warren Buffett is a very smart person. I think, not that I don't think Bill Gates is smart. I'm just saying I think that he came up under him, but he learned the wrong ways to do things.
I think that Bill Gates,
maybe they were bullied on the
Microsoft is such a big monster now.
Playground, and
Microsoft is not as well oiled as Apple.
No, not now. It broke up a long time ago. I don't think
they have their Xbox division and their phone division and their laptop division.
But I think they're all cut from the same cloth. Bill Gates, Zuck, and Bezos, all of those guys have the same end game. And that end game is that either they were hurt when they were younger, they were nerdy, they were bullied, they were something, and they want to show the world that they can come out he who dies with the most toys. I think that's problematic because they're not always looking for the goodness in things to make things better.
Every company listed, even Apple, and I hate talking bad about Apple because they've done so much good for me. But even Apple, they're all a little bit too big for their britches. Like none of them should be producing the amount of things that they produce. Like you can buy all of your music, all of your computers, your phone, your watch, and your earbuds, headphones, all your cables, everything. Yeah, I think you can even get a router from
Through
Apple. Well, you used to be able to. They might have gotten rid of that, but from one company.
Yeah,
maybe not the best idea.
But is that the same? Okay, so they have all the peripherals that you can buy from them, but is that the same as them owning like what Zuckerberg owns? Is it the same?
Well,
Because
I mean,
you can still
there's third-party
get
peripherals, right?
Peripherals, so
yeah,
I don't
it's
have
fine.
to just
But
buy
I'm just
Apple.
saying that I'm just saying that the fact
I can't get a third-party Facebook.
It's just no one specializes.
That's what I'm saying. I can't get a third-party Facebook.
Yeah. No.
I can't get a third-party Instagram.
Zuck is worse than Apple. But I was just using Apple as my example.
No, but I think
they're just all really big.
But they're a tech company, but their peripherals are different.
What I like about Apple is that they're a tech company, and the rest of the tech companies are ad companies.
Yeah.
Microsoft is an ad company. If I go on my Windows computer right now and I log into Microsoft and I log into Google Chrome and it takes me to Bing, Bing is like, use Edge. Edge is better.
Yeah.
And they have the tiles in the start menu, and the tiles are all telling you to buy stuff.
And they don't do that with Apple, right?
No, Apple's like, you just gave us $1,500.
Yeah.
Have fun with your laptop, bro. It's like Apple does. Sometimes they're like, buy Apple Music and stuff, which I don't think they should own a music platform actually. But
that's the only other thing they own.
No, they have a Google Drive competitor, iCloud. Yeah, iCloud.
Apple. Oh, okay.
And they have a Apple News, which is terrible. True. Apple News.
Yeah, but look at Bezos. Bezos owns Washington Post. He owns Amazon.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you.
Space company. I mean, that's a lot.
I think these things should all be owned by separate people.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool.
I just don't think people quite yet understand that they are a trust.
Well, you know how many people I've been like, well, Instagram is Facebook, and they're like, how is Instagram Facebook?
Well, they don't understand that WhatsApp is Facebook. Well, I think we kind of wrapped this one up.
Okay. Are we ready to do our outro?
I guess we do the outro.
Okay.
I'm X.
And I'm Z.
And together we're X and Z. Bye, everybody.
See you next time.